All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our NBA video here today for Friday, May 7th. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally here today, don't forget to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage. We've won 7 out of our last 9 extra daily pick tier package plays on my Patreon page. And if you want to access today's extra daily pick on that Patreon site, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. We're also hitting at 60% in our last 10 board member tier package picks on that very same Patreon page. We currently have over 1,125 members who are signed up and active on that site. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, link for that page is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some Friday action here. We're going to start with the Pelicans taking on the Sixers, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. The Philadelphia 76ers are -9 with the total at 227.5. Now, the Sixers still have the best record in the Eastern Conference at 45-21. Philly's currently on a 6-game winning streak, and they also went 5-1 against the number in those 6 contests. Now, the Sixers have also been outstanding at the Wells Fargo Center. They're 25-7 straight up as the home team. They successfully covered the point spread in 63% of those ball games. Joel Embiid scoring over 29 points a night, 10 rebounds, couple assists for the big center. Meanwhile, Tobias Harris is dropping nearly 20 a game himself, 6 boards and 3 assists a game for Toby. Philadelphia ranks in the top 5 in the NBA in home scoring, as they're averaging nearly 118 points a night in that category. They're taking on a Pelicans team who's a little bit banged up right now. Ingram's out, Adams is doubtful. Meanwhile, the Pelicans' leading scorer, Zion Williamson, he's also been listed as questionable with a hand injury. Now, the Pelicans have really struggled on the road this season. They've won only 12 out of 31 road games. And they also rank in the bottom 3 in the league in defending the 3 ball away from home. Now, in addition to giving up 116 points a game when they travel, the Pelicans are letting their opponents hit 40% of their three-pointers in that same category, so certainly a problem area for this New Orleans team. Now, total-wise, New Orleans is 40-26 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Sixers saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Philadelphia 76ers -9 in the over 227.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Celtics versus the Bulls, 7:30 p.m. Eastern tip-off. The Boston Celtics are -3.5, totals 222. Now, Boston has won 3 out of their last 4 ball games, just 2 games back of the 4th-place Knicks in the Eastern Conference standings. And the Celtics are in the top 10 in the league defensively in points allowed. They're also in the top 5 in defensive rebounding. Jason Tatum scoring 26.5 points per contest, 7 rebounds, 4 assists for the forward. And despite the absence of their second leading scorer here tonight, Jaylen Brown, look for Kemba Walker to step things up as he's scoring over 18.5 points a night himself, along with 3 rebounds and 5 assists. Now, Boston's in the top 10 in the league in fourth quarter points allowed on the road. They're taking on a Chicago team who's in the second of a back-to-back here tonight, and they've also really struggled at the United Center this season. They're just 12-20 straight up as the home team, and they successfully covered the point spread in just 37% of those ball games. Now, the Chicago Bulls are averaging just 108 points a game on their home court. They're also in the bottom 10 in home offensive rebounding. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, Boston saw their last 6 straight all get over the total. They're also 19-13 to the over as the official road team. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Boston Celtics -3.5 in the over 222. Next ball game, we're going to take a look at the T-Wolves versus the Heat, 8 o'clock East. The Miami Heat's -6, totals 224.5. Now, Miami's leading scorer, Jimmy Butler, is listed as questionable for tonight's contest. Apparently, he's got flu-like symptoms. Maybe he's hungover. Maybe he's drinking some Hennessy last night. I don't know. But anyway, Tyler Hero, he's also been listed as questionable with a foot injury as well. The Heat's really struggled to cover the number at home this season. They're just 13-21 against the spread in their 34 home games. And that's good for just 38% in that particular category. Now, the Heat's really struggled offensively this season as well. They're in the bottom 5 in scoring, bottom 3 in offensive rebounding. Miami's averaging just 107 points per contest. They're taking on a Minnesota club who's won 4 out of their last 6. And they've really been good against the point spread here lately as well. Minnesota's gone 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 ball games, throwing out the Memphis contest. They also rank in the top 10 in the entire NBA in road scoring. Karl Anthony Towns is scoring over 24 points a game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists for the big center. Towns is also drilling 40% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, D'Angelo Russell scoring 19 points per contest himself, 2 rebounds, 5 assists for the guard. Russell's drilling nearly 40% of his three-pointers as well. The Timberwolves are in the top 3 in the league in fourth quarter scoring on the road. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, Minnesota's last 3 straight got over the line, 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, the Heat saw their last 7 straight all get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Minnesota Timberwolves +6 in the over 224.5. Next contest, Rockets versus the Bucks, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Milwaukee Bucks are -17. Total's 231.5. Now, Milwaukee is on a 4-game winning streak, 6-3 against the number in their last 9. They're certainly no stranger to laying big numbers, big double-digit numbers. Now, the Bucks are just 3 games back of the Sixers for that first-place spot in the East. They're currently leading the NBA in scoring on average per contest. They're also in the top 3 in offensive rebounding. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's scoring 28 points a game, 11 boards, 5 assists. Meanwhile, Chris Middleton's dropping 20 a game himself, 6 rebounds, 5.5 assists for the forward. Middleton's also making 43% of his three-pointers. The Bucks are scoring nearly 121 points a game at the Fiserv Forum, and they're drilling 41% of their 3 balls as a team. They're taking on a Houston squad who might be unrecognizable here this evening. It's really sad how obvious they are throwing games right now. Porter, Olynyk, Tate, Gordon, Brown, House, Augustine, Bradley, Wilson, and Wood. They're all on the injury report here tonight. Now, the Rockets have officially hit the 500, or I'm sorry, not the 500, it feels like it. They've officially hit the 50-loss mark on the season, and they also find themselves 34 games below 500. So needless to say, they have the worst record in the NBA. And out of their 31 road games, Houston's picked up the W just 8 times. Now, total-wise, 5 out of Houston's last 9 stayed under the line, 60% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Milwaukee. Meanwhile, the Bucks are 3-1 to the under in their last 4 themselves, 75% to the under in their last 8. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Bucks -17 and the under 231.5. Next ball game, Magic Hornets, 8 p.m. Eastern start time. The Charlotte Hornets are -7, numbers 217. Now, Charlotte's headed into their second of a back-to-back here today. They were embarrassed last night by the 11th place Chicago Bulls by 21 points. Charlotte has also really struggled against the number here recently. They failed to cover in their last 3 straight, just 4-11 against the spread in their last 15. Charlotte's in the bottom 10 in offensive field goal percentage, and they're averaging just 108 points a game at the Spectrum Center. Hayward and Bridges, they're both still out. Martin and Graham, they're both listed as questionable. Now, they're taking on an Orlando team who continues to cover the number despite their injuries. The Magic covered in 2 out of their last 3 ball games, and they also went 4-2 against the spread in their last 6. And as bad as they've been here pretty much the whole year, Orlando's actually played some pretty good defense on the road. They're in the top 10 in defensive field goal percentage away from home. They're also in the top 5 in road offensive rebounding. Now, the big guns are sitting this one out here tonight. the big guns, if that's what you want to call them. But anyway, Ross, Carter Williams, Porter, Ennis, Carter, and Okike, they're all inactive. So with that in mind, my pick on this one, it's just a pure fade of the Hornets at home. Now, total-wise, Charlotte's going 60% to the under in their last 10 ball games, 21 and 11 to the under on their home court. I'm going to lean toward the Orlando Magic +7 and the under 217. Next ball game, Cavs, Mavs, 8:30 Eastern tip-off. The Dallas Mavericks are -10, totals 219. The Dallas has been playing some really good basketball lately. They're 5-1 straight up in their last 6, 8-2 straight up in their last 10. Despite the potential absence of their second leading scorer, Kristaps Porzingis, the Mavs are still led by Luka Doncic, who's averaging 28.5 points per contest, along with 8 boards and 8 assists. Meanwhile, Tim Hardaway Jr. is scoring 16 points a game himself, along with 3 rebounds. Hardaway's drilling nearly 40% of his three-pointers as well. Dallas is in the top 10 in the league in fewest points allowed. They're taking on a Cleveland squad who's 24 games below 500. They've gotten the W in only 9 out of 33 road games. And despite catching double digits in many of their road games, the Cavaliers have successfully covered the point spread in just 30% of their games away from home. Now, Cleveland is last in the league in road scoring, last in shooting the 3-ball in that same category. The Cavaliers are averaging just 100 points a night as the road team, and they're making only 31% of their three-pointers in that same category. Now, total-wise, Cleveland's 20 and 13 to the under on the road. Meanwhile, Dallas saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the line themselves, 19 and 14 to the under as the home team. I'm going to lean toward the Dallas Mavericks -10 and the under 219. Next ball game I have for you, we're going to stay in this 9 o'clock slate. It's the only game in the 9 o'clock slate, and it's going to be a good one. I'm talking about the Nuggets versus the Jazz, 9 p.m. East. The Utah Jazz are -4, numbers 216.5. And if you like the Denver Nuggets in an upset victory on the road here, they're plus $1.55 for some money line cash. Now, the Nuggets are currently 22 games above 500 right now. They're only half a game back of the third-place Clippers in the Western Conference standings. Now, in addition to winning 10 out of their last 12 ball games, the Nuggets are currently leading the entire NBA in defensive rebounding. Nikola Jokic is grabbing nearly 11 boards a night, 26 points a game, and 8 assists per contest for the Joker. Meanwhile, Michael Porter Jr. is scoring over 18.5 points per contest himself, along with 7.5 boards. The Nuggets are holding their opponents to just 109 points a game when they travel. They're taking on a Utah squad who's still going to work without Mike Conley here this evening, and they're possibly going to go to work without Juwan Morgan as well. Now, the Jazz also failed to cover the point spread in 4 out of their last 7 ball games. They're currently in the bottom half of the NBA in fourth quarter points allowed. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, 3 out of Utah's last 5 ball games did get over the posted total. They also saw 7 out of their last 10 meetings with Denver get over the line as well. Meanwhile, the Nuggets are 36 and 30 to the over for the entire season themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Denver Nuggets +4, keeping this one close, and the over 216 and a hook. Next ball game, 10 o'clock slate. I'm talking about the Lakers versus the Blazers, 10 p.m. Eastern start time. The Portland Trailblazers are -8.5, totals 221. Now, Portland's won 5 out of their last 6 ball games, 70% against the number in their last 10. Portland's in the top 10 in the NBA in shooting the 3-ball, and they're averaging 116 points a game. Damian Lillard scores over 28 points a night, 4 rebounds, 7 assists for the starting point guard. Meanwhile, Norm Powell's averaging 17 points a night himself, along with 3 rebounds and a couple assists. Now, they're taking on a sputtering Laker team who everybody's talking about right now. All the major media outlets really just crapping on this team right now. But rightfully so. The Lakers have lost 7 out of their last 9, and they covered the number just 1 time during that span. Now, Dennis Schroeder, he's still out. LeBron's been ruled out as well here tonight. And of course, Anthony Davis, he's been listed as questionable. I believe it's back problems. Maybe it's a foot. I think it's his back, though. It looked like he turned his ankle last night, but I think it's back problems. But anyway, the Lakers are in the bottom 10 in the league in shooting the three ball. They're also scoring just 107 points a game on the road. And if they lose tonight's game to Portland, they're actually going to fall behind Portland in the standings to 7th place in the West. Now, total-wise, Los Angeles, their last 2 straight fell under the line. 6-3 to the under in their last 9. No real surprise there. The Lakers are officially 22-11 to the under as the road team. Meanwhile, 3 out of Portland's last 5 fell under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Portland Trailblazers -8.5 in the under 221. Next contest, Knicks versus the Suns, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The Phoenix Suns are -7, totals 217.5. Now, the Suns failed to cover the point spread in 2 out of their last 3 ball games. And they're actually coming fresh off an embarrassing 32-point loss to Atlanta. Now, the Suns are also in the bottom 10 in offensive rebounding, bottom 10 in fourth quarter scoring. Crowder's out, Johnson's questionable. They're taking on a Knicks team who's still leading the NBA defensively in points allowed. The Knicks give up just 103 points a game when they travel. And they're also holding their opponents to just 32% shooting from beyond the arc in that same category. Now, the New York Knicks have also been very good against the point spread when they travel as well. They're officially 21-12 against the spread in their 33 road games. And of course, that's good for 64% in that category. Now, New York's 12-2 straight up in their last 14 contests, and they went 15-2 against the spread in their last 17. Julius Randle scores 24 points a game, 10 rebounds, 5 assists for the forward. Randle's also drilling 42% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, R.J. Barrett's averaging over 17.5 a night himself, along with 5 boards and 3 assists. Barrett's making 40% of his three-pointers as well. When it comes to the total in this one, New York's 19-14 to the under as the road team. Phoenix saw contests with the Clippers and Boston stay under the line recently themselves. I'm going to lean toward the New York Knicks +7 and the under 217.5. With that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Spurs versus the Kings, 10 p.m. Eastern tip-off. The San Antonio Spurs are -5, totals 225. But despite their recent struggles, the Spurs have done a real nice job covering the point spread lately. They're 7-3 against the spread in their last 10 ball games. They've also gone 22-10 against the spread in their 32 road games. San Antonio's in the top 10 in the league in fourth quarter scoring away from home. DeMar DeRozan's averaging over 21 points a night, along with 4 rebounds and 7 assists. Meanwhile, DeJounte Murray scoring 15 points a game himself, along with 7 boards and 5 assists as well. Meanwhile, defensively, the Spurs, they lead the entire NBA in second quarter points allowed. They're taking on a Sacramento squad who may have to go to work without Harrison Barnes. He's currently battling a hip injury. Now, Woodard and Metu, they're both listed as questionable for tonight's action as well. Sacramento Kings are currently the worst offensive rebounding team in the league right now. They're currently dead last in the NBA in that particular category. They also rank dead last in defensive field goal percentage. They allow 121 points a game at the Golden One Center. So needless to say, in addition to being 8 games below 500 right now, Sacramento's also got a losing record on their home court. Now, total-wise, when it comes to the scoring in this one, the Kings are 20-12 to the over as the home team. San Antonio saw 5 out of their last 6 get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the San Antonio Spurs -5 and the over 225. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like Philadelphia -9 over 227.5. Boston -3.5 over 222. Minnesota +6 over 224 and a hook. Milwaukee -17 under 231.5. Orlando +7 under 217. Dallas -10 under 219. Denver Nuggets +4 over 216.5. Portland minus 8.5, under 221. New York Knicks plus 7, under 217.5. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 7-2 in our last 9 extra daily pick tier package plays on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 60% in our last 10 board member tier package picks on that Patreon page as well. I like the San Antonio Spurs minus 5 and the over 225. And with that, guys, now it's time for some shout outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to Maya Doan, Gary DeStefano, DJ Wavy, Thomas Reason, Keese Money, Lighthouse Ice Bro. Shout out to Troy Moore, Mike Ernest, Rob Lane, and last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to my man, Blaine Medvick. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind, Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a package here today, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of May. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.